Alrighty, so it's gonna be kind of a weird video, but I wanted to make a set of gear with you guys because I wanted to show you guys how I sort of do my gear. I know that a lot of people probably don't need this video, but if you're newer to the game or just maybe you want to, I don't know, not that I'm like a master at the game or anything like that by any means, but I have like a system that I use for my gear that sort of makes it easier for me and helps me future-proof stuff, so that way I can sort of make additional sets in the future if I need them or whatever the case may be. So first and foremost, how do I get my gear? At this point, I don't really farm gear often at all. If I'm just doing regular sort of stuff, you do get gear from your dailies and everything, I think. So if we go over to daily tasks, there's never mind, actually I don't think dailies is where I get most of it. I think it's from the patrols. Patrols end up giving you like pieces here or there, and they're not always great pieces by any means, and a lot of the pieces I don't even use. Like specifically like this iron wall bracelet would completely go in the trash. Don't care about it. It's not going to go on a set for me. You know, crit chance pieces are just very seldomly used, so they're probably going in the trash. This is also not going to be used as well, even if it has like a really good roll on it. Sometimes I'll keep it, but for the most part I have a system in play that I try to stick to if possible, so that way I can sort of make sure that characters that I'm building sets for, if I need to build a second set for them in the future, I can swap pieces out. So what I mean by this is if I go, I have my box sorted to where my Meliodas up top are the ones that I end up storing extra gear on. So basically I have an attack crit set here ready to be made. I don't think any of the actually this one's pretty much done. Obviously the rolls could be a little bit better, but as far as like goes, like this is like base level. Like I've already put all of the anvils that I need into this set. It would be just a matter of like hammering it up at this point if I really want to go for it, but I have an attack crit set basically already done. So my next Meliodas has a HP defense set on him, and you can see I keep my, you know, the HP set and the whatchamacallit, the HP set takes 4 set pieces. Like you need 4 pieces to make the set, and so does the attack pieces. You need 4 pieces to make that set as well. So I try to make sure that my attack and HP pieces, because you're pretty much never going to use any of the other ones. I think some of these other sets have 4 maybe. The crit chance set needs 4, which is not what you want to see. It would be way better if that was a 2-piece set. But either way, here nor there, I try to make sure that my 4 pieces are on the top and the bottom. I don't know why I do it like that. That's just the way that I prefer to do it. There has been, somebody asked me just the other day if I could confirm whether or not having like the HP pieces on the bottom or the middle or the top or whatever the case may be, like if I had these 2 defense pieces on the bottom or top as compared to like in the middle, if that actually affects CC. I don't think it does, but I honestly haven't done enough like testing to really give a good answer on that. And it would literally be, I would have to have all of the same, like I would have to have all of the pieces with the same sort of stats on them. I would have to have all of the pieces with the same substats on them, and I don't have sets like that. Like that would be way too specific to actually test. I'm sure you don't have to have it completely exactly right, but you would also have to put it on the same character, swap it out. I don't know. It's just too much time and effort to test that, really. I'm sure even if it does make a difference, it's probably not a big one. But yeah, I put my 4 pieces on the top and bottom, and then whatever my second set of pieces are, whether it be defense or crit damage, for example, because those are basically the ones that are going to be used the most. I would say 98% of characters are going to use either attack attack crit at this point, or HP defense at this point. There are outliers such as like the new Liz, or Festival Gother is another good example of characters that can sort of take advantage of HP and crit damage. And obviously you can kind of just make your own judgment on whether or not, like, if they're a character that does a lot of damage but they need a lot of HP, you can sacrifice the defense pieces for crit damage pieces. That's completely up to you. Most of the time, if I'm putting HP on a character, more often than not, I try to put defense with it, because I'm more than likely using HP to give them more CC, and the defense pieces give more CC than the crit damage pieces, because these are going to increase your base stat defense instead of a sub stat, which isn't contributing nearly as much to your combat class. So I do it like this. I do my middle pieces and everything like that. So if we were going to upgrade this piece, which I just made this one earlier, we can go ahead and just max it out. 5/5, easy peasy, and you can see we didn't get any attack rolls on that, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't have any of these +5, but it's okay at the moment. We're not really worried about it. Another thing to note is that 98% of the time there are characters that do use something different, but for substats, unless the character really needs it, like specifically Purgatory Bond uses the set that I have on him, his top pieces are like crit chance and crit damage, because he is a character that doesn't benefit at all from the attack stat. If you look at his actual cards, he is, it inflicts damage equal to max HP instead of attack like most characters are. And even his ult uses max HP, whereas if we look at a regular character like this, it's of attack on an enemy. So this is one of those characters where it's not normal, so you kind of have to build it a little bit differently. So his attack pieces that I have on him, or his top pieces that have attack substat rolls, I have attack or a crit chance and crit damage. So that is definitely a little bit more different. So you do have to look out for those specific kind of characters, but more often than not, it's just going to be regular substats as far as I'm concerned. But other characters, I mean, if the character has really bad crit chance, you could try to throw some crit chance rolls and stuff like that on there. But normally, if they're not critting very well and it's going to be really hard for them to crit, I would rather them have more attack substats to do more damage overall when they don't crit. And then if I do get a crit, fantastic, whatever. But yeah, so basically I go in, I click consecutive enhance, or sorry, that's not right. I gotta go to change stats first, and then you click on one of the roles. You go to repeated change, and this will pull up this repeated change menu. I always go to 2.5% HP stat, and then I just go for this. You can, if you're low on anvils or you're not worried about your gear being the best it could possibly be at the moment or anything like that, I mean, even then you could crank this up if you really wanted to. I would say the minimum to do if you're trying to build sets early on or something like that, 2% would probably be the lowest I would go. But even then, like, I know that, like, when you're very first starting out, you just upgrading to an SSR gear set in general can help you a ton compared to, like, whatever you're using on them at the very beginning. But I always go 2.5 at this point, because that leaves me a decent amount of room where it doesn't take too many hammers to completely max it out, depending on how bad my luck is with it. So we can make sure that we're on anvils, because I don't want to use diamonds at all for this. Using diamonds on gear at this point is ridiculously bad. Don't do that. So we'll just do no restrictions. It'll just basically go as long as it wants to, and they've sped this animation up a ton. It used to be a lot slower than it is, but we can just sit here. We got a perfect roll on that one, which is fantastic, so we won't have to use any hammers at all on that. 2.8 is also really good. Unfortunately, unless we get like a super success on that, that'll probably be two hammers worth if I wanted to completely max that one out. Another 2.8 is really good. 2.7 is not bad at all. It's kind of disappointing when you get like a flat out 2.5, because that's the lowest roll that you could have got without having to re-roll it or whatever. But you know, it is what it is. With these rolls being as high as they are, even if I got a 2.5% right here, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And also, you know, sometimes the game just sits here and recycles through the only 3 that you don't want, and it's just going to sit here forever and waste a bunch of your anvils, and unfortunately that does happen. So 2.6, not too bad. That would be one that I would definitely want to throw a hammer on sooner than later, but because I don't have a character for this set to go on specifically at the moment, I'm not worried about it. Normally, if it's like a festival character coming out and I'm like, oh hey, my festival, you know, my new festival character is going to need this HP defense set, I'll try to go in at that point and I'll be like, hey, you know, this is 13.9%, I want it to be at least above 14% if possible. I'll hit it. I'll you know, try to hammer it out a little bit to try to make it a little bit better. But if it's just for like a regular character that's coming out, normally I don't put as much like love and attention into those sets if possible, just so that way I'm not wasting like tons of resources on every single set that I make, because going for like perfect sets is, you know, that's fine and dandy, but you're going to waste an absolute ton of resources trying to do so. So just going for the 2.5% I feel is a pretty good middle ground, to where yes, it does end up taking a lot of anvils sometimes, but at this point in the game I've basically got a UR gear set for most of the characters that I need one for, and I'm kind of just like working on sets in my off time, putting them on new characters when they come out, or if all of a sudden some character gets buffed, gets a holy relic, whatever the case may be, and they become relevant again, if I didn't already have a set for them, I'll make a new set or put one of these sets that I've been building on the character, or if I already had a set, I'll sort of try to start focusing more of my hammers on their set to help boost it up a little bit, so that way it doesn't completely be, you know, trash, because, you know, sometimes I don't make great sets. If I look at a lot of the characters that I made, like, or a lot of the gear that I made for characters a long time ago, like when I first started the game, I didn't do the whole like 2 pieces in the middle thing every time. Sometimes it was like the weird offset thing where I would have like one of the pieces up on the very top right, one of the pieces on the very top or bottom right, which is super weird, and I hate that I did that back then, because the earlier you can sort of establish a pattern for yourself and make sure that your pieces are going to be in the slots that you want them to be in every time, you won't have to worry about, you know, making a new set for somebody and then being like, oh, I need to, you know, all of a sudden I want to try out, you know, HP crit damage instead of HP defense. Then you can take the, you know, crit damage pieces off of an attack set that you have, put them in the middle slots because they'll slot in perfectly into your HP set, and you'll be good to go. Whereas if I look at a character that's maybe a little bit older, some of these are just for CC. So this one specifically, this is a really old Meliodas set. This was the first UR Meliodas set that I ever made. It is completely maxed out UR 15% rolls, but you can see that my defense pieces are in the top right and the top middle, or the right middle, for whatever reason. Not sure why I did it like that. Probably just because I ended up getting a piece like this and I checked it and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Like these base stats are not too bad. And in the beginning, I guess you can't really be too choosy. Like if you end up getting something that has a really good base stat roll, you can kind of go with it, but in the long run it'll help you out a lot if you're trying to stay organized with it. So just sort of, you know, use your own discretion, I guess. That's why if I look at all of my gear, any of the attack pieces that I have locked are going to be pieces that are either in the top slots or the bottom slots. Anything other than like that, like if I get like this HP necklace, I don't really care if it's got a good base stat on it or not at this point. This is a middle slot piece for an HP set. I'm not going to use it. If I end up getting, you know, these necklaces or earrings or whatever for defense sets or crit damage pieces, I'll definitely keep those. Like this is a little bit lower than I would want, and I can definitely re-roll this a little bit later. I normally try to stay within like the, like I don't want to call that 95%, maybe 90% of the bar full on the basic stat if I want to keep it. So for this one specifically, because the max is 140 and there's not a very wide range, I would try to keep it within, I would try to go with the lowest being 135. I think the only reason I have this one is probably because I just don't come across the crit damage pieces nearly as often as the other pieces do. So if I look at this one, for example, this one is almost completely full. We're missing 2 points of substat there. Unfortunately, you can't hammer these base stats, which is a little unfortunate, but any of this stuff is normally going to be around the 90% like full range. If we take a look at some of this stuff as well, like, you know, max is 520, that one's 508, this one's max for 520, it's 505. This is max of 280. I'm at 276. I try to, if I can, as I roll and I go through and I'm like, oh, I need to, you know, get rid of some gear. I need to salvage some gear for either a daily, or I just need to, you know, clear some of this out because my inventory is getting full. I'll go through, I'll look at any of these pieces. I'll be like, okay, this is crap. I'm not locking that. And you know, go to this one. It's not good. I'm not locking that. And then I'll just go through, and if I get a decent piece, I'll put the little lock on it so that way it doesn't get salvaged. That one's obviously not good, so I'm going to salvage that at some point. And then I'll just go in and salvage all of the old equipment. If I really do need a piece, I don't really end up using these tickets all that often. They've just now made it to where these tickets are in this menu. So I do use these every once in a while if I'm really strapped to get a piece. Like, for example, this Meliodas right here that I just was working on. I couldn't get one of these pieces for a while, so I had this one just sitting in my inventory, and it wasn't the greatest base stat roll, so I re-rolled it until it was at least 500%. I got, or 500 attack, so I did get 500 on the dot, which was kind of weird. I would love for it to be a little bit higher than that, but it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it at that point, but I do sit on these for quite a while because I just don't really like using them, because most of the time it's going to be completely random piece of gear, as if you just, you know, hit the random button in a game and it just gave you whatever it was willing to give you RNG wise. But if I really need like a specific piece, I can go to, you know, HP, you know, grab the piece or whatever. So I don't know, I'm not a big fan of these, but if I'm sitting on a ton of anvils and I'm like, hey, I would rather just re-roll one instead of just farming over and over and over again and wasting stamina pots to try to grab a piece, I could definitely do that as well. So at this point, you know, I can go through, man, that one's not even completely enhanced. But I can go through, change the substats on these, make sure that all of them are around the 2.5% range, which is where I normally try to keep it. I would go there, you know, select all of these because none of them are defense. That one is, but it's on 1.7, so it's really low. You know, just let it do its thing. Work on the gear, have it in the box ready to go, so that way when a new character comes out, I don't have to worry about building the set and all of this good stuff. I can just be like, hey, you know, if a new character gets, you know, announced tomorrow and it comes out on GP and I look at it enough and, you know, the optimal set ends up being HP defense, I've got an HP defense set made. If it's attack crit, I've got it made. If it's even, or if it's, you know, if it ends up being one of those outliers where it's HP crit damage, I can be like, okay, that's fine. I'll just take the, you know, defense pieces off of the attack set that I have, and I'll just put it on the defense, and I'll recycle, and I'll put the defense on a new set, you know, in the future, because more often than not, I feel like nowadays characters have so much crit chance and crit damage that you normally don't end up doing attack defense sets anymore. It used to be kind of common to do attack defense, but it's just it doesn't happen much nowadays. If you're gonna make an attack set and you're gonna use them in geared PvP or just geared PvE at that point, more often than not, you just want to get as much damage as you possibly can out of them, and having crit chance or crit damage rolls or crit damage pieces is going to help more than having the defense pieces, because normally you're going to have a tank or whatever the case may be to sort of help mitigate damage, whereas this character is meant to just do as much damage as they possibly can. So that's pretty much how I do it. If you have any tips that you would want to give people, or any, you know, different ideas that you do, or anything that, you know, you find helpful, definitely leave them in the comments below. I'm sure people would, you know, be interested in trying to figure out what's best for them, and if you have any sort of different ways or methods that you do it, I'd love to hear it. So either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. A little bit long, kind of unfortunate, but it takes a while to build gear sets, unfortunately, and I wanted to explain all of the like core mechanics to it that I try to take into account. So that is it for me. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.